Okay, let's go. Let's go. Hold on, let me fix this here. It's not clear for you. All right, there we go. Here we can start this off. This is better. This is day three of the bridge to private banking. Yes, we want to take you here to the, how do I say, the sweet spot where everybody is trying to really, really understand. Okay. The collateralization of your bodily potential and labor. All right. Now we have this diagram here. This is to kind of give you a little breakdown, little visual of the two ways in which your bodily potential has been monetized. There's two aspects, a current aspect and a future aspect. The current aspect is relative to the SSN. The future aspect is relative to the birth certificate. The future aspect is overviewing your potential in society, um, relative to your demographic, who you are, where you are, etc. Okay. Your present labor with the separation of the head, this is really through that all capital letters name in commerce, that connects to the SSN. Okay, it doesn't directly connect to the birth certificate. More so, the birth certificate or the potential is what fuels what you're doing in society. So that's what it kind of produces the SSN. Okay, so based on your potential, your ability to produce, your ability to operate in commerce, or your birth certificate, you are given an SSN, a capitis diminucio vessel, for you to operate within. So you are presumed the vessel. Okay, you are the one who is capitis diminucio, or the straw man, as they say. Okay, but we'll go deeper into that a little later. What is that, day 4 and 5? We'll touch on that in greater detail. Let's look at the processes of how the bodily labor and potential is collateralized. Okay, so that you can understand the value behind your nationality, your partaking in society, with a birth certificate and an SSN. If you have a birth certificate and an SSN, you have United States nationality, okay, which um, precludes citizenship. You have nationality and then you establish your citizenship. So getting rid of your citizenship doesn't get rid of your nationality, with the nation you are a part of. That just shifts how you operate in society, and partake in social affairs relative to the stability and advancement of the United States. But you are still considered bound to the United States with United States nationality. Okay, or state nationality as they are one. So let's go ahead and start off with your future bodily potential. This is, how you're going to operate in society. What school you're going to go to, your education, how you're going to work, and how you're going to live your life, your lifestyle. Okay, relative to who you are, your personality, what you're going to do in society, your demographics, age, race, area, location, etc. All right. Then we have your present labor. Of course, this is you working or what have you. um, this is you being taxed. This is you building the infrastructure of society. Okay, so one is used as a data point and the other turns into a treasury security. All right, so you see your birth certificate connected to investments. That gives investor confidence for public debt collateral when the government issues us securities. Okay, so you find your birth certificate information attached to government securities. because that's revealing the future potential of society. The future potential of society is predicated on the people in society. So the future potential of you, or the future potential of society, gives investors confidence so that they can invest in government securities and get a return. Your present labor, your taxes, when you're taxed, you're charged, you have to pay fees, fines, etc. All of that revenue is generated, and then the Treasury borrows it from the Social Security Trust Fund. Okay. And then that turns into a government security for the government, the Treasury, to pay back the trust fund. And the funds are used, for society and government purposes. So now if you want redemption, you have to change your status and have the right claim, and you have to build your actual nation according to jurisprudence, and to be able to recoup the value that was had here, you're going to want to rebut the benefit plus the your intent. So what do we mean by that? What do we mean by that? All right, let's go deep here. At the foundation of modern finance lies an uncomfortable truth. People themselves are collateral base of government securities. The United States, like most developed nations, relies on its citizens' future potential and present labor to sustain debt markets and ensure investors of returns. Both the capacity to work in the future, bodily potential, and the current output of labor are pledged through structures of taxation and registration. This system stabilizes the national economy, underwrites the value of the dollar, and provides confidence to creditors. To understand redemption, one must first grasp how the system functions, how bodily potential is transferred into data for investor faith, how labor translates into securitized tax streams, and how both dimensions of human capital are used to sustain U.S. obligations. Okay, so we're defining this bodily potential as a measurable projection of a person's capacity to live, work, produce, and contribute economically. Governments quantify this through demographic data, census statistics, and actuarial science. All right. Now, Treasury bonds, notes, and bills. All right. That's what's used to support it. The U.S. Treasury issues debt. Investors buy based on faith in the government's ability to repay. That repayment depends on future taxation, which depends on the future bodily potential of its people. International investor confidence involved. There's credit rating agencies and global investors that evaluate America's debt sustainability by examining labor force size, productivity, growth, and demographic trends. These things are used as collateral data points. So bodily potential is not cashed out directly, but is abstracted into data models showing that the U.S. population will contribute to sustain the GDP and tax revenues. All right. Full faith and credit. This gives the investors confidence to lend money to the U.S. government at relatively low interest rates. All right. Now let's look at the present labor and securitization of tax revenue. All right. So taxation of your labor, specifically working, that SSN tax, money coming out of your check without you having any control of it. Okay, that aspect. You being taxed for your business and having to pay, quarterly or yearly, however you structure it, having to pay to make money in society. Why is this? Labor, taxing your labor. Okay, so the taxation of labor. Current bodily potential manifested as labor produces taxable income taxes, payroll taxes, consumption and excise taxes. All of these things contribute. Okay, how tax revenue is securitized. General Treasury securities backed by the U.S. government's taxing authority. All right, special issue securities, trust fund securities. These are non-marketable bonds purchased by the Social Security Trust Fund with payroll tax surplus. So the extra money it has from all the taxes from labor or what have you. Okay. So it buys securities from the Treasury, meaning it lends money to the Treasury. So you have General Treasury securities backed by the U.S. taxing authority. That's how they'll repay. They're going to, for sure raise funds off of taxes within the time frame they're projecting. They have the special issue treasuries, which aren't marketable to the people. This is directly from the Treasury, the Social Security Trust Fund, letting the Treasury borrow money from it, and that's a bond. Okay, and that's pretty much guaranteed because they're going to raise money from the taxes. Okay, because people are going to continue to work. So I want to show how these two really interconnect. All right, the U.S. is saying, hey, look, we have IOUs that are backed by taxing, and then all the money that comes from taxes, we have one part of the government that borrows that money and say, hey, we're guaranteed to repay due to taxes and fines and other expenses, other ventures, which we go into the revenue projections. So future expected tax receipts are factored into bond pricing, directly tying labor to the present value of government securities. So labor ensures that debt service payments, which is the interest and the principal, the money borrowed and the extra, can be paid back, which maintains the U.S.'s credibility so that you can have full faith. People in the global market have full faith in it. Okay. So the dual role of human capital. Together, bodily potential and labor create a two-dimensional system of collateralization. You have the future bodily potential, that's projected from the data information connected to the birth certificate. And then you have the present, which is coming from working and business taxes. All right. This is very, very clear. All of this is within the trust fund, but we're going to go deeper. It's not a secret. Okay. It's not a secret. All right. No secret, SDK. This is where your value is. You pledged your value. This the SDK Vi Trust holding your value and making investments and building off of it. Your projections of your value, how you're going to live your life, what your life's worth, how that's going to impact society and the world. So you're looking for your value or the accounting of your value. You want to recoup your value. Where is it stored? There's no secret place. It's right here in front of you. Okay. So future potential. Okay. So look, you have your mortgages, which is huge in the considerations of repayments, because that's like the sustainability of people's life as a whole, livelihood, lifestyle. I wanted to say all of them at one time. This was like life, all the life. Your entire life is usually kind of locked in around that mortgage, which you go into the word, the grammar of the word mortgage, and like you made your life pledge unto death. Like I'm gonna always, I'm locked in for life. Okay, so you have mortgage payments. This is the promise. The house will keep its value, so the potential of people paying. And then you have the present labor. So not only are people going to pay in the future, business can be conducted off the projections of the future. Business can also be conducted off of what's going on right now, the present labor, monthly mortgage payments, the cash flow. Both together stabilize the U.S. financial system. Okay. All right, so how this supports the advancement in the U.S.? Well, it stabilizes the dollar by tying debt securities to its population's ongoing labor and future productivity. It expands national programs. You have Social Security, Medicare, infrastructure, defense, all securitized through citizen performance, all raising money relative to citizen performance. Maintains global dominance. Investors worldwide purchase treasuries because the U.S. population is seen as reliable collateral. Sheeple, they will work. They will consume. They will buy. It's reliable. All right. And who's the number one stimulators of the economy? All right. So then now the number one spenders of the economy. Okay. The working class, the least business owners, the ones who's like, okay, so now you have that aspect. You look at that, the spenders and the workers of economy, and then the world considers them reliable collateral. So what type of person or what type of citizen in society would be the most reliable collateral? Huh? Just think, who's the working class? Who's the non-business owning class? Who's the one who spends the most of the most materialistic things? They are considered the most reliable collateral on a global scale. And maybe this is why the God of Israel has a beef with the nations, but that's another topic. Okay, so the body itself, all right, its potential and performance has been pledged to advance and sustain the state. All right, if you want redemption, this is what you have to do. If both your future bodily potential and current labor have been pledged, then to lawfully seek redemption of the proceeds, one must sever the presumption of suretyship. This requires demonstrating non-benefit position. The presumption you receive benefits from the infrastructure, welfare, and protection from the system. Do you? Can you prove that you don't? Then you maybe need to be building a nation showing you got your own infrastructure, welfare, and protection so that you can rebut that presumption. Let's go deeper though. To redeem, you must prove you have not benefit or that any benefit was under duress, not voluntary acceptance. Okay, can you articulate that? That is a study in and of itself. So we got to keep going. Okay, non-intent. The presumption you intended to advance and sustain the U.S. by submitting to its allegiance frameworks. Can you rebut this presumption? Have you shown that you intended to advance and sustain? If so, can you explain how it was under duress? To redeem, you must show that you never intended to pledge your bodily potential or labor as collateral for a U.S. debt. And you must have a diplomatic reason to explain why. All right, foreign standing. Redemption cannot be claimed while acting as the surety. All right, so you have to already have that handled before you go into court. You'd had already had come out of her so that you can properly make an agreement with your adversary. All right. So the government relies on both bodily potential, future labor capacity, and present labor, all right, as collateral base for its securities. Investors have faith in U.S. treasuries because they know the American population will continue to work, pay taxes, and sustain the economy, as well as buy stuff, eat, consume. In this system, the citizen is both the promise of tomorrow and the payment of today. For redemption, one must prove they neither benefit from nor intended to sustain the system that pledged their existence as collateral. Can you go to Pharaoh and say, well, look, you already know we ain't never been down. We've been building this thing under duress. Can you go to Pharaoh and explain that you're not an Egyptian, you an Israelite, and you always been an Israelite, and you need to be let go so that you can build Israel or rebuild Israel in this case, considering you in Egypt all over again? Okay. Only then can an individual lawfully exit the surety role and claim creditor status over the proceeds generated by their human capital. Hey, this is value projected off of my life. All right, y'all use me as a data point. Okay, that data is relative to my assets, my information. You know, you use my good name. You know, in that regard. Okay, and in business, if you were to, sell a product using somebody else's name, you owe them. You know what I mean? You kind of owe them. They have a claim. All right, so here we're going to give a breakdown. Here's an exhaustive breakdown. So let's give a quick breakdown of the points. All right. So bodily potential refers to the measurable future capacity of individuals to work, produce, and generate economic activity. Governments convert this potential into collateral data points and give investors faith in the stability of public debt securities globally, worldwide. And that's why your birth certificate information is connected to bonds that are globally and worldwide. And it's not a secret. It's just you don't know. And when you found out about it, you thought it was a secret because you found out about it late. But that stuff been on the website. How many? It just didn't pop up on the website when you went to go look at it. That stuff been there. Okay, you got to kind of think. All right, well, this is public. I just was led in this direction. I Googled this, Googled that, YouTube this. They said this. I read this PDF, Googled again. Bam. Oh, here it go. Okay, so this is what I need. And then you like, oh, you think you didn't, because you bumped into connected some dots. It's like a secret, but it's not a secret. It's just revelation. Revelation. It was hidden. Just because it was hidden to you don't mean it was a secret. It wasn't hidden to everybody. Oh, if folks know about this, folks know about it in abundance. I mean, when I say there's abundance of folks that know about it, you just ain't friends with them. You ain't in them circles, but they know. Okay, so bodily potential is collateral data points. All right. This refers to your capacity to work, produce, and generate economic activity, which again is working and buying stuff, paying bills and consuming. Working for the shoes, going to buy the shoes. Helps the guy working at the shoe store, helps the guy who delivers the shoes to the shoe company, to the people who make the shoe material, to the people who, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, so this potential is converted, all right, into collateral data points. Now investors have faith. They like, I know this is why I should invest in this security. Okay, for this information lets me know why this one is a little more stable, why this one may have more return, etc. All right, so types of securities tied to bodily potential. So you had treasury bonds, notes, and bills. Let's get in there. So the purpose is to raise funds to finance government obligations, military infrastructures, and entitlements. All right, the collateral, that would be the full faith and credit of the United States, underpinned by the assumptions that the citizens will continue to work, pay taxes, and sustain the economy. And pay taxes is all types of government charges. So think, you got tickets, filing fees, what else I'm thinking of? All types of government charges, copy fees. If you're anytime you got to pay pay the man anytime. Okay, labor tax, business tax, etc. tax, investment tax, any type of charge, extra fee, fine, all of that. Going to jail, all of these, all of they say, hey, the system will keep flowing. Whatever idea we want to invest in, we'll be able to pay you back because we can always draw off of the labor of the people, the production power of the people. We set society up in a way. Okay. Okay, so human capital bonds, education-linked instruments. So the purpose used in certain cases to fund education or training, repaid through future earnings. The collateral would be anticipated lifetime earnings of students and workers. So that's a very practical breakdown of how a human capital bond works. It's based off of the future productivity. You can get the money now, and you can repay it through future earnings because we anticipate you having earnings. This is why you get student loans. If you go to school, we see you signed up for school. You're giving us faith that there will be future earnings, so we can invest now, and we're looking for a return, etc. So that's how it works. Okay, now the profits, the interest, or what have you, okay, goes towards, the world, society. So we get this. I'm just hoping it's clear. Make this very plain. give this breakdown here. So demographic and actuarial projections, investors analyze all the data, workforce participation and projected GDP, that's gross domestic product, that's consumption, what's being bought up, products and services, to price bonds. How much money we raising? How much can we pay back within this time frame? Okay. And the collateral is the future bodily potential of the population as an insurance of the future return. Investors don't need a secret account. They only need confidence that the U.S. population will keep working, consuming, paying taxes, and that's it. That confidence becomes collateral. That's it. It's very simple. I'll try to make this simple. So you got your present labor tax. Again, that's with the SSN. Okay. The securitization of tax revenue. When the Treasury issues bonds, repayment confidence comes from present and future tax receipts. So the Treasury is like, hey, I'm gonna get money from the taxes. I'm gonna get money from society. Let me borrow money. Then the Treasury goes to the Social Security Trust Fund and be like, hey, let me borrow some of this money right here. And here go an IOU. I'm gonna pay you back. How I'm gonna pay you back? From the money generated from society. And this really just an IOU for myself because I have to write this IOU because people are entitled to this money for the benefits. So it's not solely just mine to invest in government expenses. These people got to be paid back. So if I borrow from their future payouts, I have to leave a note to not only borrow from it, but to try to put some extra back. And that always keeps the wheel spinning. Hope y'all understand that. All right. So, like again, the types of securities, long-term financing for entitlement programs, like Social Security, short and middle term liquidity for ongoing expenses, special issue treasury for trust funds exclusively purchased by the Social Security Trust Fund to hold the surplus contributions. All of it is backed by labor. Pay you back based on the people. Whether we borrow internally or borrow from the people directly, we're going to replace the money based on getting money off of the people. Okay. So the correspondence, so we can see how they both connect before we go to the next layer and really go into your worth. And how do you analyze the worth for recoupment? How do you do that? It's talking about it's $1 trillion. How much in there is yours? Okay. So the present labor translates into tax revenue, which is immediately securitized to fund the U.S. budget and social obligations. Okay. So anything from it's immediately securitized. They constantly flip and nothing is just sitting per se. That's why you get the aspect of its accounting. And the accounting has monetary value. It's like money on hand. We read that in day 2. Where it said it was like money on hand. Hold on, y'all may think I'm making it up, so I'm gonna just go ahead and go to it real quick. Because you'd be like, what? No, we didn't hear that. I don't remember that part. It'll only take a quick hop, skip, and a jump here. Let me see here. Okay. Investment in special issues gives the trust fund the same flexibility as holding cash because those securities have monetary value. They're IOUs with full faith and credit, so they can be liquidated like cash, like it'd be treated like actual cash. Okay, so that's the accounting aspect. Okay, so the correspondence, future and present potential. The U.S. relies on 2 dimensions of human capital. That's your future potential coming from your body directly working, living in society. That's just your lifestyle, etc. That's your future potential, your bodily potential living in society. And then we have your present labor. This is your taxable output or more like your current production. This generates current revenue streams, and those are securitized into bonds to cover today's expenses. So your birth certificate is more for larger international investors, and labor tax revenue is more for immediate short-term things. That aspect, and this dual structure ensures the United States is constantly flowing. Okay, so the path to redemption. If both your future bodily potential and present labor have been pledged to support the U.S. Through securities, then to claim redemption on all of the money that's being made, you must demonstrate that you're not in beneficial position. Okay, you have to demonstrate that. The government presumes you benefit from everything. All right. Redemption requires rebutting this presumption, explaining how you did not. You must demonstrate you didn't have no intent. You must stand in a foreign capacity, only from outside the debtor system through corrected status, which is easy through trust structuring for an irrevocable legacy trust, having that diplomatic mission through that tax exempt sustainable income structure. Which is giving you legal standing and being in a different jurisdiction, because if you're tax exempt, you're not a debtor. You're not operating and under the subjection of having to pay homage or sustain and build the U.S. This immediately is showing that you're not in the beneficial capacity, and it's also showing that you are in your own jurisdiction or your own capacity for self-sustainment. So that is the immediate legal standing through tax exemption. Otherwise, the system will always presume you voluntarily pledge both present labor and future potential to sustain U.S. obligations. When your labor is no longer taxed, your bodily potential is no longer taxed, you're no longer consumed as a debtor or subject, and you're no longer presumed as one who's supporting, which destroys the presumption of benefiting. And this creates the immediate foundation for sovereignty. And that is through your labor. That labor is your purpose. You should be about your purpose or on a mission. And that mission is for self-sustainment and the development and the expression of yourself diplomatically. So, just to make sure you understood the breakdown, both your bodily potential and your present labor underpin public debt. Okay. To obtain redemption, you must lawfully rebut the presumption of benefit and the intent of support, proving that you never intended to advance or sustain the U.S. and you're not a surety, not a vessel for it. Like, what is that? USC 718, your citizens are vessels. Okay. Only then can they, or can you reposition from collateral to creditor, because you gave credit, you gave your good name, you gave your potential. All right, you pledge. Now, how to commute what you may be entitled to? Think this is a lot of money. Now, we're going to do some hypothetical processes here. We're going to go into some detail. So just follow me. Okay, so to identify the two streams of value, mind you, you have your future potential and your present labor that's already been pledged. Future potential is your bodily potential in society. This is the actuarial economic estimate of your lifetime productivity at birth. Governments and investors use demographic tables, life expectancy, average earning potential, expected tax compliance, etc. If the average worker is expected to earn, and they look to see if this thing changes relative to the use of your social security number. Okay, because that lets them know, okay, if things are on track for the future, right? If their hypothesis is an estimation, the hypothecations you guys talk about, if the hypothecations add up with the rest of the data, current data. All right, so present labor. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, let's go a little deeper. So let's give an example. If the average worker is expected to earn $50,000 per year for 40 years, the projection table value is like $2 million. Okay, so present labor for your performance in society. This is what you have already contributed through tax fees, licenses, and compliance. Each dollar of taxed income was used to support the government securities. Example, if you've paid $300,000 in taxes over 25 years, that sum was securitized and leveraged. And it's a lot more now. A lot more. So compute how the funds are used. When the money enters the system, it isn't stored for you, it is securitized. Okay, converted into treasury securities. Okay, so the money is immediately given to the treasury, and a note that the treasury is going to repay it with extra is placed in the Social Security Trust Fund accounting. Okay, and that money is used by the treasury to sustain itself, and the sustainment of itself is used to raise funds, and the raising of those funds are used to sustain itself as well as repay the Social Security Trust Fund with interest. So your money went out, went through the different processes, but it brought back more in the end, a lot more. Okay, so surplus is like in Social Security, placed in special non-marketable treasury bonds, are used to justify long-term bond issuance. Okay, so that is this is the process of the extras being used. So even when they get extra more than they have to pay out, they say, okay, well, everybody we owe in benefits, we can pay out. But we have extra here. We're going to make money off of that. Okay. So placed in the special non-marketable treasury bonds are used to justify long-term bond issuance. All right, this means that both your past labor and future capacity are already monetized. All right, so what is your cut? Estimating the entitlement. Your lawful claim isn't to cash out a hidden account, but to assert a creditor status over the value generated by your life's pledge. The computation would consider the total of taxes, fees already extracted and securitized with interest, since bonds accrue interest. The actuarial value of your remaining working life presented at birth, updated with age. So we want the future aspect. Governments routinely publish per capita net present value of citizens. This is the figure they use as collateral. All right, but that's again, these are topics within itself. This is why this is this movement we're in is very deep, and you can end up getting lost and off track if you don't know the main road and what are the side routes, the little scenics or what have you that you can go through that help you enjoy the route and get better clarity on your destination to freedom. So, but you got to stay on the route that's going to get you to freedom. Okay, both legally as well as financially. What's the good of legal freedom if you can't financially sustain yourself? And what's the good of financial freedom if you can't legally protect your assets, wealth, and legacy? So you need both financial and legal sovereignty. Welcome to Royalty and Power Enterprises. All right, so the example, because Royalty and Power Enterprises, we are the sovereign chamber of commerce. Let's go. Okay, so example framework. All right. You are 40 years old, expected to work until 65, pay taxes, contribution. And say that's $250,000. Average annual projected taxable income. Let's say there's 60,000 for 25 years. There's 1.5 million future collateral. Your pledge value equals 1.75 million plus compounded bond interest. And then you can have some pain, suffering, whatever, and it has to be relative and reasonable to this type of aspect to have lawful validity. You can't just be like, you owe me 90 million and we'll explain where you get the numbers from. Okay. So what they say, make it make sense. Like literally make it make sense. Break it down into numbers. Break it down, break the money down. You like that? I like that. Make it make sense. Turn it into money. Turn it into, okay, maybe y'all didn't get it. Okay. But unless you rebut benefit and intent, the system will argue that you already received benefits. You enjoyed our roads, the schooling, social stability, and voluntarily considered to advance the U.S. We don't owe you anything. So your path to redemption, you must compute what you may claim. You have to audit your past contributions, estimate your actuarial future value, and calculate the pledge total, and then have reasonable, reasonable aspects for extras, pain, sufferings, etc. You know, and put a little extra on it. You know what I'm saying? But you have to explain why. Subtract benefits received. Okay, rebut the presumption and assert creditor standing. Look, I'm not. Is my me living here help keep y'all afloat? So y'all owe me for that. Okay, so your entitlement is not to a secret cash account, or to a secret account with the accounting, the actuarials. No, it's not a secret account, but to the proceeds generated by your pledged labor and potential to compute it and add up what you've contributed, add your projected lifetime capacity, recognize that you've been securitized, and then rebut the presumptions. This is how you get back. Again, your future potential and your present labor both turned into securities. This is the future. All right, this is the present. Now this is deep because they take the future. All right, they borrow this. The future goes into they take the present. Let's go start there. We're on the present side. They take your present labor and they borrow it it goes into the Social Security Trust Fund and it's borrowed. And when they borrow it from the Social Security Trust Fund, they're saying, okay, we're going to pay bills with it. And then they raise money after they pay bills, because if they pay all the bills, they kind of broke in essence. So you following me here. So after they pay the bills, they're like, well, we got to repay what we borrowed. The Treasury borrowed from the Social Security Trust Fund. So here, let me do it like this so you can see it in section. You pay work, you are taxed, that money goes into the Social Security Trust Fund. It's immediately borrowed by the Treasury, and it has to be repaid with interest. The Treasury uses it and spends it up. Then the Treasury has to raise funds to not only repay its internal expenses, which is things like the Social Security Trust Fund, but also to raise money to advance its operations, railroads, militaries, etc. So the money goes into society, into bills, and back to the Social Security Trust Fund. So the Cestui Que Vie Trust that you are seeking to redeem, the gold you are seeking to get from Egypt, is in the Cestui Que Vie Trust. And that is the Social Security Trust Fund. All right. You must reclaim your status. All right. And rebut all the presumptions, because all the value is there. And that's pretty much it, you guys. To get that in a nutshell is really lay that down solid here. I'll do it one more time just for clarity's sake. Okay. So let's review how the money that you are looking for, the redemption, your value, your credits that you've pledged to the United, that they're making off hypothecating your future potential and getting value funds from that hypothecation. Let's go over this. So it starts with your present labor. You work in society, whether you're an employee or a business owner, you're taxed. That taxes goes into the Social Security Trust Fund. The trust fund gives that money to the Treasury. The Treasury leaves a security or an IOU relative to a bond saying, hey, I owe the Social Security Trust Fund the money that I'm borrowing plus interest. The Treasury spends it to sustain the government. Okay. Then the Treasury issues bonds based on your future potential. Okay. That future potential is based on the hypothecation of the value of your life that is attached to the birth certificate. Okay. And the present labor that you know through your Social Security number. All right. So you work, or with your social, you can't buy, sell, or trade without that Social Security number in a sense. Same in the aspect of doing business with that EIN number. All right, that thing generates tax revenue. That tax revenue goes in the Social Security Trust Fund. The Treasury borrows it. It pays bills. Then the Treasury needs money to advance society as well as repay the Social Security Trust Fund. So it raises money based on your current operations, the Social Security data, this number, information, and data point, in correspondence with the hypothecation of your bodily potential, your future potential in society related to and established through the registration of the birth certificate. Okay, that bond generates funds. It goes towards different aspects in society. It goes towards different government expenses and administrative costs, and then it is replaced in the Social Security Trust Fund along with interest. It's recorded and then immediately put back into use again, so it doesn't sit there. So yes, the data, the accounting that you are looking for, the hypothecated value that you are looking for, that is in the Social Security Trust Fund. That is the Cestui Que Vie Trust, the trust holding all of your value while you are capitis diminutio, or without a captain, lost at sea, not self-governing, not in control of your vessel. Okay. As long as you're not in control of your vessel, they are generating value and building off of the value of your vessel. So when you come and reclaim the value of your vessel, you first have to claim your vessel, which is your body, which is to come out of her, leave surety, beneficial position, correct your status, self-govern. Once you've done that, then you can come and claim the value that's attached to the body, that's been pledged, hypothecated, accounted for, collateralized into securities for the advancement, stability, etc. That's where it is. It's in the Social Security Trust Fund. That's the Cestui Que Vie Trust. So when you say you are alive, in a sense, and not by verbally saying it because they know you are alive, but by showing it, displaying it through your actions, through conscious expression. Because simply saying you are alive doesn't prove you are alive in this capacity by not being brain dead. They know you are living, but there you are brain dead. Like in the great city, you in Revelation, you aren't actually dead. In the valley of dry bones, you aren't actually dead, so you don't have to say you are alive. You have to show you aren't brain dead. You aren't capitis diminutio. You aren't a surety. You aren't a beneficiary. And then you claim the body, then you can lien the bodily value properly through national lien on the Social Security Trust Fund. Okay. Now you can leverage trust certificates be reflected on your lien on the Social Security Trust Fund, and based on the structure of your foreign irrevocable legacy trust, where why use any other instrument? You're using a trust certificate. Then you can use the value that is attached to the lien and placed in the trust, which is reflected in the certificate, to offset, do set offs and subrogations in this sense, for debt discharge. Okay, so I hope you guys understood that. Hope you guys understood that it's not a secret. It's not a secret trust. It's not a secret. All right. It's not a secret. It's the Social Security Trust Fund. And it operates as the Cestui Que Vie Trust. It's where your value is. I hope you guys enjoyed day 3, where you can clearly see that your nationality has worth and what is required to claim that value. Tomorrow we will go into deeper detail. Yes, we're going into deeper detail tomorrow. We've been going deep. We've been going deep all week trying to get you this understanding. All right, we're going all in on the straw man so we can get an understanding of how the birth certificate and the social security number create the sole proprietorship, and how you are considered the sole proprietorship, and therefore you are considered the straw man, and what must be done to rebut this position. Because many people are saying I'm alive, I'm the living man, I'm not the straw man, and that's not right. That gets you deemed incompetent, and then they want to know if you're competent to represent yourself. So okay, so we'll go deeper into that. Y'all stay tuned for day 4, where we go into the straw man, being real, being the sole proprietorship, and not being a separate corporate body. All right, now make sure you keep your crown on so you can remember the rules to rule, because you have a right to rule. I'm out.